What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to the Charge to the Top. And today we have for you the end of Season 6 review. Yes, I made a poem. I didn't even mean to. Yeah, we're back. I will just start off this episode by apologising for the lack of a Charge to the Top episode so far this week. Obviously, as some of you will know, the Kingston Sprint series has started. My plan with the two series is basically with the Charge to the Top to have a minimum of 2 to 3 episodes a week. With the Kingston Save, I'm aiming for 3 to 4 a week. And, well, the reason that this is the first this week is because I was ill earlier on in the week, and as a result I've not really been in a position to record videos, so I apologise for that. It's kind of out of my control. I'm not going to sit on my deathbed and record videos when I'm rushing back and forth between the bathroom, unable to stomach my food, shall we say. I feel like I've done too much information there, but shall we get in to today's episode and just kind of reflect, I guess, on what was a very, very good season for us. As you can see, League One, We've got promoted, and I'm not entirely sure how. Someone pointed this out that there's been teams in the Football League who have been relegated with fewer than 17 wins from their division, 17 losses. We've lost 17 games this year. It's right up there, in the kind of the middle of the pack. Really, our saving grace has been our lack of draws. We've only drawn 7 games. You can see actually Leyton Orient and Wycombe also drew 7 games this season. But really, it gives you an idea of just how tight this league has been this year. It's been a hard-fought contest. I feel like we've been the beneficiary, I guess, of the fact we had a very good start. And actually, when you look at some of the results that we got, we tended to do fairly well against the teams kind of up in the table near us, whereas a lot of our defeats, they kind of came against teams you'd expect us to win, really. You kind of look at our form as a whole. It was largely good, obviously. The last 6 games of the season, or last 5 games of the season, rather, bit of a write-off. Probably should have mentioned them, but we did struggle. Of course, James Maddison was out injured. A massive player for us this year. He really has been... I don't want to say he's been the difference maker, but when you look here, he is the club's top goal scorer. He does also have the most assists. Of course, a player who joined us last season. And, he's been out, of course, with the twisted ankle. And, we've really kind of realised, I guess, how reliant we are on him. You can see he's had a fair few injuries, really, over this season. And it's less than ideal. You kind of look here. 3 injuries this season. Obviously, a few minor ones, but the twisted ankle really did kind of throw a spanner in the works the last few games. And I think that is something that we have to address. Of course, we are going up into the Championship. I feel like League One and League Two, there's not a massive gulf in quality between those two leagues. But going up into the Championship, it's going to be a big challenge. Kind of when we look at what we've got money-wise, we've actually got some fairly good money, £1.79 million to spend, and quite a lot of wage budget. Of course, if we look at our transfers, we've got a few going in. No outs at the moment. There's a few players who, as you can see, I'm kind of trialling and stuff. I'm really excited about Guy Akusu. I think this guy could be exceptional for us. The 18-year-old, not going to have a work permit, but I feel like he's a very good long-term player for us. Just to give you an idea of perhaps some of the players I have been looking at, Darren Brown I'm looking at as potentially an option from Tottenham Hotspur. He's currently kind of transfer listed, so he's the kind of player I'm looking for. I'm looking for players I can either get in on frees or for very small deals, such as £300,000, who are really of Championship level, and it's going to be a bit of a hunt, of course, I think, this year. And we are kind of fairly lucky in the sense that Kevin Kelly, you can see looking at his loan here, it's to the end of next year, so we've definitely got this guy for next season, assuming Watford don't recall him for whatever reason. And the 19-year-old Scottish striker, just a fantastic player. He's very good at this level, obviously. He scored 18 goals, and as you can see, he really was our first choice kind of striker for a long spell, of course, with Danny Evans being sold. Our hand was kind of forced in that regard, but Kevin Kelly has stepped up, and I'm really excited to see how this guy can develop next year, because I think he is pretty much ready for the Championship. You can see potential to be a Premier League player, so room to improve further. And I think if he can kind of score goals, we're going to be in good stead. Of course, that is something that we've always been very good at, is the kind of goal-scoring side of things. I always, especially in Football Manager, I go in with the attitude of, if we can score more than the opposition, we're going to do well. You can see here, we scored the 3rd most goals in the league, behind actually Oldham, who finished 18th, and Tranmere, who finished 4th. But all in all, it's been a pretty good season. When we looked at the start of the year, I didn't really know where we should be finishing. When I looked across the team of the kind of league, the best kind of Dream 11 from the media, it was a little bit of a big question mark, really, because we didn't have any players on this list. But we've assembled quite a nice little squad here, and when I look through the team, there's players who I think are going to be ready to make the step up. I think Harry Lennon is a player who can make the step up to the Championship next year. You can see, good player for League 2 sides. I don't necessarily buy that. I think the fact he's a consistent performer, the fact he's a very well-rounded defender, really serves him well. Of course, there's other players who I'm a little bit more concerned about, if I'm honest, players who I feel like could find themselves outside of the first team. I'm looking at the likes of Mayo Waters, of course, a player we brought in last year. But in reality, I don't know how much of a step up he's going to be able to make. But I say all this, there's one thing I have to remember, and that is the fact that there are some players who aren't rated that highly in-game, who just perform. And Jack Barmby, he is that man for us this year. A player who, he's underappreciated. Son of Nick Barmby, of course, of England Hall of Fame. And, well, this guy, you know, he's 27. He came to us at the start of the year, at the end of last year, and did well. You can see this year, 34 appearances, 12 goals, 5 assists. He actually has the highest average rating in the side, which is perhaps a little bit of a concern, the fact that the highest average rating is a 7.13. But regardless, I can't really fault this guy, because when he has played, he's done pretty well for us. Unfortunately, injuries have been a problem. In terms of kind of the team going forward, I think we're going to need a fairly big rebuild. I feel like we need a new goalkeeper. I feel like we need someone to partner Harry Lennon at centre-back. A right-back might be useful as well. Across the midfield, I think we're going to have to look to get in a better kind of left winger, certainly, maybe even a centre-attack in mid-2. I feel like Jake Hesketh this year, he kind of reached his limit as a player. He did fairly well for us when he did play, but he wasn't standout, and I do feel like the kind of whole midfield could do with a bit of an overhaul. And I think that is going to be one of my priorities next year. I feel like with Kevin Kelly, we've got a goal scorer, but elsewhere I feel like there's more strength needed. Gustavo Rojas, his contract expires in 2 years, obviously. He isn't getting a new work permit, at least as things stand. You can see, obviously, learning to play that right-back role, that's where I see his future, playing him as a kind of right-back, because I think he could play very well there. So I am actually thinking he may become our right-back solution next year, because he's a very talented player, unfortunately, just doesn't quite fit in our system. Obviously, I kind of talked about our money already. We're in a fairly good position when it comes to our transfer budget, but we have got some potential options maybe in the under-23s for players we could potentially sell. I'm looking at the likes of Ceciliano, the Costa Rican, a very good player, but without a work permit, it might be more in my interest to sell him. I think Wade Ryan might be the top of my list of players I might be tempted to sell. The centre midfielder is a good player, but I don't think he's a great player. And at 20, you know, once you get above the age of kind of 21, 22, players' values start to drop off a little bit if they're not quite reaching that potential. And you can see this guy, a high potential player, but with that low current ability, I can't help but feel like he might be a player worth cashing in on. And it's a similar story, I guess, with Andrew Nicholas as well, another player who came in a few years ago now from Australia. So there are a few of the players who maybe we can move them on for a few £1 million, you know, give me a little bit more flexibility in the market. Obviously, you can see if I just show you here the players I'm kind of looking at the moment. I'm looking at players whose contracts are expiring who are going to be available on free transfers. I'm really trying to kind of get the bargain buys at the moment. Anyway, if we just look at the kind of league stats here, I would normally kind of go through these, but actually, when it comes to kind of player stats, we've not really been up there for anything. You can see average rating, Stevie May, the highest average rating. None of our players featuring anywhere on here. Yeah, it's kind of funny actually. Will Packwood, been involved in the most wins. Kind of interesting that. And also James Maddison, involved in 21 wins this year, which, when you look at it, we've had 22 wins this year. He's been in 21 of them. And he missed a lot of the season through injury. You can see, if we just look, where are you? Where are you? I can't find him now. I've gone blind. Send help. Maddison, where are you? Here we go. So he's played 46 games for us this year. Of our 22 wins in the league, he has played a part in 21 of them. When you consider the amount of games he's been injured for, it really gives you an idea that he really is the catalyst. He's the player who makes it or breaks it. And I think a lot of that is because he is our best midfielder by quite a margin. And so that is something we are certainly going to have to look to address next year. In terms of the tactics, I know a few people have mentioned, Jack, maybe it's time for a change in tactics going into next season. I think to start next season, I actually want to persist with this tactic, but I'm hoping with the personnel that I can bring in to kind of specialise in the roles of this system, we can do better than how we ended this season. As I kind of mentioned, I want to get a new right winger, potentially a new left winger, maybe 2 new centre mids as well. I think Kevin Kelly suits this system very well, kind of as an advanced forward who perhaps isn't the quickest, but is fairly solid in the air. So, I don't know, I want to persist with this a little bit. I have no doubt that over the next season it's going to tweak and change slightly. I want to continue playing on the attacking mentality because I feel like that is when my teams play at their best in Football Manager. It's just my personal preference. I know there'll be some people who go, Jack, you're going into the Championship, play defensive. It's boring. I don't do that. I like to play on the front foot. I like to try and outscore the opposition. And so far, it's served us pretty darn well. So I feel like it's worth persisting with. I guess if I was going to change something about the system, I might be tempted to revert the change that we made last season. If you can remember, we actually used to play a centre attacking mid on attack and then the wingers on support. That might suit us a little bit better in the Championship because it will mean our wingers are a little bit deeper on that support duty and just give us a little bit more solidity in the midfield. So that's perhaps, maybe an option there. Anyway, in terms of other top performers, I've talked about a few players, but there's a few others that need mentioned. Will Packwood's played very well, as I already said. He's been involved in every single league win we'd had. He's been a kind of mainstay in the first team this year. Don't quite think he's Championship quality, but I think he could be a very, very good backup as a Championship centre-back. Obviously, the fact he can play right-back and the centre-mid kind of positions, very useful indeed. A degree of flexibility with a player on the bench. Other players who played well, Sambu played well when he played. He's a player who I might be tempted to sell next year, if not maybe the year after. I like this guy. I just don't quite know where he fits into the system, especially with Kevin Kelly playing so well. I kind of want to get Liam Evans back in on loan from Watford if I can. Of course, a player we lost last year. I don't think he'd actually replace Kevin Kelly in the first team, but he would be kind of the ideal kind of backup striker for us in terms of offering something a little bit different. A few other players who played well. Jake Hesketh, I kind of talked about him a little bit. You can see he really has fallen off a cliff. He's played well this year in League One, but I just don't think he's good enough for the Championship, I'm afraid to say. He's 26. Not a whole lot of areas that he's likely to improve in, kind of, hitting his mid to late 20s now. So that's going to be a change there. I mean, when you look at the team ability as a whole, we have some real talent, and it's going to be a case of, I guess, building around this talent. I feel like McGeehan's a very good player, actually. But I'd like to get another, maybe two, good centre mids to play alongside him. It's going to be interesting because with a player like McGeehan, if a team came in with a transfer bid of, say, £1 million, I would probably be tempted to take it because it would allow me to rebuild elsewhere. But I don't know if we're going to get that kind of bid. And at 27 years old, I think he's such a great, kind of well-rounded centre mid that he'd just be an ideal player for our first team. But anyway, that's kind of that. Should we have a look through the awards and stuff? So you can see here that we have the annual end-of-season result, end-of-year rewards. Of course, at Edgar Street, Will Packwood, signing of the year. Chris Owens, young player of the year. Massive shout-out to this guy. 38 games he's played now, the 23-year-old. Of course, a player who joined us back in the Vanarama South, has held on to that first-team spot at left-back. Do I think he's good enough for next year? Probably not, but I think he'll be a more than adequate backup. And, well, fair play to him. Young Player of the Year. James Maddison, perhaps unsurprisingly, getting Fans Player of the Year. Harry Lennon, runner-up. And Jack Barnby also doing well. Goal of the season was Kevin Kelly against Preston. Let's take a look at it to refresh our memories. I don't know if this was in a live com. I don't think it was. I'm trying to think what the goal was now. I guess we'll find out, won't we? Let's have a look. Loading highlights. Please wait. I'm waiting. It's coming. I can feel it. Maybe. Is it going to load? I mean, it's pretty tense now, isn't it? Is it going to load? I've just remembered, this is my first time coming back to this save since the January update. I don't know if the replays will have changed as a result, because that used to be a problem many years ago. I'm hoping it's not. I mean, okay, it's not. That was a great goal by Kevin Kelly. Fair play. Absolutely lumps it into the top corner, and that was in a 3-0 win that we got against Preston. Fair play. End of season review here. You can see our dreams came true and we defied expectations that we were relegation certainties, amounted an almost unbelievable promotion winning campaign. Lots of long words in that sentence. Long words are hard. Average attendance obviously fantastic there. Total players used 32. That's the third highest in the league. Match of the year was a 4-1 win. Moment to forget, a 4-1 loss. In the Cup, we didn't really do a whole lot, did we? We went out in the fourth round of the FA Cup to Barnsley. A little bit underwhelming there. The EFL Cup, we lost to Fulham. And in the Checkatrade Trophy, we got knocked out by Arsenal's under-21s, which is not great. Anyway, let's have a look at the kind of confidence. You can see here the board are very, very happy. They think Baldini's signing might not have been the best bit of business. I mean, we didn't pay that much for him, did we? We paid £3,000. I mean, pipe down. I mean, I don't know what that's all about. They just don't like me, do they? Clearly. But obviously, we have a look at our side here. This is the 2016 side. Where are they now? That's not what I was looking for. I wanted to look at the overall best 11. Let's take a look at this. Let's go to the best 11 screen. So this is the current Hall of Fame best 11 of all time here at Hereford. If there's any players that are missing from this, that you think should be in this from this series, please let me know who those players are. You can see, if we go from the back, I guess, Russell Griffiths in goal. He's still at the club, the 26-year-old. Very much a backup player at this point, though, unfortunately. Just not quite kind of found his space in the squad. Anyway, at right back, it's Kane Smith, former club captain, now of Histon. Played 20 games for them so far this year. Obviously, good to see a former club captain doing well. In the centre-back positions, we have Harry Lennon, who, of course, is still at the club and very much a kind of feature of the first team. And alongside him, we have Jordan Piggott, who is a player who I probably wouldn't have placed in this list as the starting centre-back. But there you go. 70 appearances he made over 3 years for us. He was a very good centre-back back in his day. Currently plays for Ebbsfleet. At left-back, we have Chris Owens, of course, still at the club. At right mid, Keenan Bennett playing for Accrington Stanley. Who are they? He's out with a groin strain, unfortunately. He's a good little player, to be fair. He's not doing too bad. He's only played 4 games for them. Contract expires at the end of next year. I wonder if he'll be kept on beyond that. Doesn't look like he's playing a whole lot of first-team football anyway. Anyway, next player we have, centre midfielder, playing for Chadderton, Dan Townsend. What a player. Bit of a fall from grace. 31 years old now. Of course, the player was a regen when we first started. He's had a bit of an interesting career. He's had a bit of an up-and-down experience, been in the Chadderton reserves for spells at a time, but he's played fairly well at Chadderton, to be fair. A 7.22 average rating this year. Not quite as good as that first season he had at the club. It is a bit of a shame, I guess, to see that he really hasn't made it as kind of a Vanarama national quality player, because he did fairly well in the Vanarama South and certainly in the Southern Premier. And well, he does find himself very much down the pecking order when it comes to where he sits in the English pyramid there. Anyway, the next player we have, James Maddison, still at the club, still a legend. Going to get plenty more appearances to add to that. Anthony Wright, the American left midfielder, now plays for AFC Ewell. You can see he's played 20 games for them over the last 2 years. He's a good left midfielder, not outstanding, not entirely surprising not to see him really playing in the Vanarama leagues. The next player we have, a hero, perhaps the player of the series so far, I'm not sure. Aramide Ote, now plays for Leatherhead, 23 years old, scored 7 goals for them in 12 games this season. That's a pretty good goal return by him. I'm really pleased to see the 23-year-old, finding a level that he can perform at regularly. Of course, back when we were in the Southern Premier, he scored 31 goals in 33 games. It's not quite the same goals per game ratio that he's achieving in the is it Isthmian Premier? I don't know how to say it. It's stupid. I speak English. I can't even say English words. But yeah, he's doing okay in the Isthmian league. That's definitely not how you say it. Someone answers on a postcard. Let me know. I should know how to say that. There's a reason I've never managed in that league, and it's because I can't say it. Anyway, the next player we have, Joel Driscoll, goalkeeper, also plays for Leatherhead alongside Ote. So they reunited Joel Driscoll and Ote. Of course, striker and goalkeeper. I'm sure they trained together pretty hard back in the day at Hereford, so cool to see them together. Another player at Leatherhead. What are Leatherhead doing? They're holding all our players. Raphael Branco's there too. It's a full-on Hereford reunion. They're just kind of sat in the Ryman Premier. You can see they finished 18th last year. Have they got any more of our players? I mean, it looks like they've got a pretty good little squad here. They've got Ote, they've got Branco. I mean, they're just hoarding our players. They're going to get promoted up into League One at the rate they're going. They're going to be just stealing all our players all the way up. The next player we have, Isaac Christie-Davis, plays for Northampton, so kind of good to see him kind of find a fairly high level. A lot of these players who we've let go, they've kind of ended up in the depths of non-league. So to see Christie-Davis playing in League 2 is pretty good indeed. Jake Hesketh is still at the club. Stephen Payne, you can see here, 30 years old, currently a free agent. We did release him earlier on this year. Yet to kind of find a club, unfortunately. A little bit sad there. The next player we have, George Johnson, playing for Peterhead, of course, in Scotland. So the Scottish player returning to his home nation, playing in League One there. Peterhead were recently promoted though, so he is playing for a team very much on the rise there. And the last player we have, Sean Hanbury, playing for Old Rutishmians. Answers on a postcard. 4 goals in 16 games for him. Yeah, another player who's kind of just ended up in the depths of non-league there. So anyway, that's the best 11 of all time. Just have a quick look at this season's best 11. I won't go through all the players, but just so you can see it. Rob Elliott, Luke O'Neill, perhaps he deserves a little bit more credit. He's done fairly well at right back for us this year. You know, not the greatest average ratings, but I think he kind of filled a spot in the squad that has been a weakness for the last few years. As I mentioned, I kind of feel like Rojas might take his mantle at right back, and maybe O'Neill becomes the kind of ideal option on the bench in terms of how someone who can play either full-back position for if we do have to make changes there. Other players we've got though, Packwood Lennon, Chris Owens, it's fairly standard. Joe Edwards, a player I've not talked about, he didn't have the best average ratings this year, probably a player I need to replace, in fact certainly a player I need to replace because we do lack a little bit of strength in that centre mid area. David Short's done okay, the youngster, but I don't know, 21 years old, I think he could... I thought he could improve more and he really hasn't. I guess that's the problem for this guy. Maybe I'll let him go. We spent quite a lot of money on him, £275,000. I doubt we're going to recoup that. He still could be a very good player. It's just really his lack of pace that lets him down as a centre-back. I think he could do an okay job still, to be honest. So maybe we will keep him as a backup option. James Murphy, the American, also here, not at the greatest average ratings. That really has been the story of our midfield, really. They've just not quite stepped up to the plate, and in the majority of games they've gone missing. And really, it's been a case of James Maddison kind of pulling the team through the mud to get crucial results. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap up this from me in terms of our league. Just have a quick look at the Championship and Premier League. People frequently ask me about these. It kind of annoys me because I feel like I have shown these in the last few end-of-season live comms, but people never watch these sometimes. And the people who want to see what's going on don't watch the videos where I cover what's going on. So you can see here, Wolves, Watford, going up. The playoffs yet to be played, but it's going to be Reading, Stoke, Fulham and Norwich in there. In the Premier League, you can see here, Man United winning it. Past winner was Arsenal. They finished second in the end. United having a very, very good season. Harry Kane, top goal scorer with 19 goals for United. Gabriel Jesus and Kelechi Iheanacho, 17 goals each from Manchester City. They've got a very nice strike partnership going on there. Kelechi, very good player. A player who, of course, fan favourite for many of you guys who watch on my channel due to the contribution he had many years ago at Lewis now. And also Gabriel Jesus doing pretty well. He's developed very, very nicely as well in this specific save. De Bruyne, highest average rating. Pogba up there as well. Hector Bellerin playing very well indeed. Unusual player, perhaps a player of the matches. Aaron Cresswell of West Brom, most player of the matches. Griezmann and Pogba also up there. Clean sheets. Courtois leads the way. Szczesny and De Gea, as you can see there, for Arsenal and United trailing in his wake. Anyway, that's going to be all from me, guys. If there's anything I've missed with these end of season reviews, I ask this every time and people never seem to mention it, but if there is anything that you would have liked to have seen more that I've not covered in this episode, please do let me know. As I said at the start, apologies for the delay in getting this episode out. Not really ideal. I can't really help the fact I've been ill. Obviously, when it comes to prioritising my series, Thursday this week was the first week I was able to record videos. I'm recording this on a Friday to go up on a Saturday. It's tricky for me to strike a balance, especially when I get ill, because I do basically do YouTube as a hobby at this point. You know, I work full-time 9 till 6, 5 days a week, and this is something that I do in my spare time. And so when I'm ill, it really throws a spanner in the works because I don't have the time kind of to make up anywhere. It's not like I have a ton of free time anyway. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up from me. I've said anyway a lot today, so we'll end on that. Thank you for watching. It is me, Jack. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.